Marked by a tyrant after transmigrating. Chapter 58. When the little boy reached his 1-month-old, Yeshu's body had completely recovered. He was even a little fatter than before. Jinwang wasn't in the imperial capital, but he didn't miss the opportunity to show off his son. On the little prince's 1-month-old celebration, His Majesty ordered that there would be a 3-day banquet in the capital. The citizens would have their taxes reduced and there would be a general amnesty to celebrate the grand occasion. As for the family of 3, they had a quiet 1-month banquet in the temporary imperial residence. I think this one is not bad. Wait, let's go with this one. Yeshu's brows were tightly knitted. His gaze fell on the paper in front of him. His expression was so serious that it seemed like he was discussing something important. Jinwang's expression was also somewhat serious. He raised his hand and pointed at the paper. How about this one? Yeshu shook his head. No, let me think more about it. Head steward Gao Jin, who had been quietly waiting with the baby in his arms for almost an hour. Although giving the little prince a name was a very important matter, he didn't understand why it needed to take so long to think about it. Head steward Gao Jin restrained himself and finally reminded in a small voice, Your Majesty, dinner is all ready. The two of them turned their heads at the same time and said together, Don't make a fuss. Gao Jin. Head steward Gao Jin lowered his head innocently and looked at the little ball in his arms. The little boy narrowed his bright black eyes and yawned lazily. Yeshu pointed at a name on the paper and said in a very serious tone, I understand what you mean. The meaning of this name is not bad, but I will never allow my son to be called Jinjiang. Don't ask me why. Jinwang clearly wanted to argue with him, but when he saw Yeshu's serious expression, he could only give up. Then which one do you think we should choose? Yeshu, I'm asking you because I can't decide. From the way the two of them called the little dog that had been with them since childhood Awang, it was clear that they didn't have the slightest talent in giving names. A full month had passed since the child was born, but the two of them still hadn't decided on a name. Jinwang thought for a moment, then spread the paper filled with names on the table. He stood up and carried the sleepy child over. Let Yair choose for himself. Yeshu. Yeshu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Other people's children are just picking the weak, but your son is picking his name. You're being too perfunctory. Jinwang faintly glanced at him. Can you decide? Yeshu said, There's nothing wrong with that. He can decide what he wants to be called himself. Men need to learn to be responsible for their own actions. The cub who was suddenly given a huge responsibility. Jinwang sat down with Xiao Yeqi in his arms. Xiao Yeqi stretched out his chubby hands towards Yeshu, wanting his father to carry him. Jinwang stopped him and tapped the paper on the table with his knuckles. Pick one first. The little boy frowned in dissatisfaction and made a face at Jinwang. This little brat had always been very clingy with Yeshu. Yeshu held back his laughter as he took Xiao Yeqi in his arms. He rubbed Xiao Yeqi's head and said, Xiao Yeqi, be good. Pick one first. Xiao Yeqi seemed to understand Yeshu's meaning and began to giggle. Yeshu raised the paper and placed it in front of Xiao Yeqi. Xiao Yeqi's two small hands waved in the air. There were more than 10 names written on the paper. They were all carefully selected by Yeshu and Jinwang over the course of a month. The two of them looked at each other and held their breaths. They were inexplicably nervous. After a while, Xiao Yeqi pressed his hand on one piece of paper. It was the character for Zhao. Zhao, Riming. Zhao Biyun Han, Zhao Hui Tian. Jinwang said, Not a bad name. Yeshu sighed in relief. Fortunately, it's not a name like forbidden, dedicated, or abstinence. Otherwise, Xiao Yeqi will secretly scold us when he grows up. As he spoke, he angrily glared at Jinwang. It's all your fault. The surname Jin is too difficult to pair a name to. Jin was the surname of the imperial family of Changlu. No one had ever dared to say such rebellious words. The surrounding eunuchs all sucked in a breath of cold air, but they saw that the emperor was not angry. He smiled and pulled the child into his arms. Jin Wang said, "I've said before that the child can also take your surname." "How can that be?" Yeshu was focused on playing with Xiao Yechi in his arms. He didn't even raise his head. It wouldn't be proper. The people of Changlu cared about etiquette the most. Jin Wang had already broken many rules for Yeshu. He didn't want this person to always make sacrifices for him. Moreover, it didn't matter whose surname the child took. He didn't care about this at all. "As you wish." Jin Wang naturally understood his meaning and didn't insist. Jin Wang said, "Then it's settled. His surname will be Jin, and his name will be Zhao." As soon as His Majesty opened his mouth, someone beside him immediately recorded the name of the prince. Jin Wang folded the paper full of names and carefully placed it in a wooden box. Yeshu asked, "Why are you still keeping this?" Jin Wang deliberately glanced at Yeshu and suggestively said, "Who knows, it might be useful in the future." Yeshu coughed awkwardly. What nonsense are you saying in front of a child? We should eat." Yeshu's ears turned slightly red. He picked up Xiao Yechi and walked out, his steps somewhat hurried. Jin Wang chuckled. He had already given birth to a child, but he was still so easy to tease. He ordered the eunuchs to serve the meal and sat down at the table with Yeshu. Yeshu casually played with Xiao Yechi's little feet, but he was clearly distracted. Jin Wang tilted his head and looked at Yeshu. Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed the back of Yeshu's hand. The latter withdrew his hand as if he had been shocked. Jin Wang raised his eyebrows. "Am I not allowed to touch?" No. Yeshu's expression was a little unnatural as he lightly pursed his lips. During the late stages of pregnancy, they couldn't have intercourse. In addition to the month of rest after giving birth, they had already been observing abstinence for 3 to 4 months. It would have been better if he hadn't mentioned it, but now that he did, Yeshu couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. His dependence on Jin Wang was like an instinct that had been carved into his bones. It was impossible to resist. Jin Wang didn't say anything more. He supported his chin with one hand and encircled Yeshu's back with the other, gently pulling him into his arms. He rubbed his palm against Yeshu's thin clothes a few times. The scalding heat was transmitted to Yeshu's skin without reservation. Yeshu's skin was so hot that it was almost burning. Yeshu struggled as he said, "Xiao Yeji is here. I'm not going to do anything." Jin Wang deliberately smiled. "Or is it that Minister Ye wants me to do something?" "Yeshu." The servants served the dishes one plate after another. Jin Wang quietly leaned over to Yeshu's ear and whispered, "Will I help you fix it tonight?" "Don't worry, I won't touch you. I'll just fix the front." Yeshu's hands trembled and he almost dropped the dishes in his hands. When did this person become so shameless? He even dared to say such things. Yeshu's ears turned red. The more Jin Wang looked at him, the more he liked it. He deliberately asked, "Do you want it or not?" "Don't you want it?" "Jin Wang, so do you want it or not?" "If you don't want it, then forget it." Yeshu gritted his teeth and spat out a word with difficulty. "Yes." Jin Wang remained expressionless. "I can't hear you." "Dog Emperor." "Idiot Emperor." Yeshu silently cursed in his heart and fiercely said, "Yes." Jin Wang couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Yeshu glared at him in embarrassment. Jin Wang stroked the other man's head to comfort him. He exerted a little force in his palm and pulled Yeshu closer. The two of them were getting closer and closer. Suddenly, the two of them stopped at the same time. The two of them looked down at the same time. The little boy in Yeshu's arms looked up and stared at the two of them with a pair of bright eyes. His head was slightly tilted, as if he was a little confused. "Jin Wang." "Yeshu." Jin Wang decisively covered Xiao Yeche's eyes and said seriously, You're not allowed to see this. Then he quickly leaned over and gently kissed Yeshu on the lips. It was a short and deep kiss. It was so fast that it was finished before anyone could react to it. Yeshu subconsciously looked at Jin Wang. The latter winked at him and mouthed silently, "We'll continue this tonight." Yeshu looked away. His face and neck were completely red. Dinner was laid out on the table. The two of them were about to start eating when a servant suddenly came to report that someone was outside the temporary imperial residence. The news that the emperor was in the temporary imperial residence wasn't a secret. However, there were very few people who could get close to this place. Yeshu glanced at the token that the servant presented and ordered, "Let him in." This token was unique and he knew very well who had it. It was Great Yan's second prince, Yu Yan. Yeshu ground his teeth and sneered, "I was just thinking about how I can take revenge. Who would have thought that he would come knocking on my door?" Yu Yan, who was about to enter the room, achoo. Yu Yan had disguised himself as a commoner and had a jade flute at his waist. He looked like a handsome young master from a wealthy merchant family. He walked into the main hall and bowed to the two of them, "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Greetings, Minister Yet." Yeshu snorted and ignored him. Jin Wang was not unhappy to see him. On the contrary, he was somewhat grateful to this person. Thanks to the toys that Yu Yan had left behind before he left, Jin Wang had used that box of toys to research many things that he had never thought of before. This made the emperor and the prime minister's nightlife much more interesting. It could even be said that he had given a great contribution. Of course, he couldn't say this in front of Yeshu, though. Jin Wang asked the servants to leave and asked, "Why is the second prince here?" "I came secretly and will leave in a while." Yu Yan's gaze landed on the little boy in Yeshu's arms. He took out a small silver longevity lock and said, "I came especially to see my little nephew. I rushed over and didn't want to miss his 1-month banquet." Yeshu's expression softened when he heard this. He snorted and said, "Not only did you not miss the banquet, I think you're here to freeload. Then I'll accept your invitation." Yu Yan smiled and went to the table unceremoniously. He asked the servants to bring him a bowl and a pair of chopsticks. The meal was very lively. Yu Yan liked Xiao Yeqi very much and couldn't bear to put him down when he picked him up. First it was the longevity lock, then it was the jade thumb ring. As long as Xiao Yeqi looked at them, he would immediately take them off and give them to him. The resentment in Yeshu's heart had completely dissipated by the end of this full moon banquet. It was already late at night. Jin Wang went to coax Xiao Yeqi to sleep while Yeshu sent Yu Yan out. The second prince took a few steps and looked back in the direction of his bedroom. It was written all over his body that he didn't want to leave. Yeshu snorted and said, "If you like having one so much, then go and have one yourself. Don't keep thinking about my son. I don't want to have one. It's better to have someone else do it for me." Yu Yan snorted and said bitterly, "When this prince ascends the throne, I will naturally have many wives and concubines. I will have a bunch of children to play with every day." As he spoke, he put his arm around Yeshu's shoulder and said, "How about it? Do you want to marry your Xiao Yeqi to our great Yan? We won't treat him badly. Get lost." Yeshu pushed him away and scolded jokingly, "How would you know whether Xiao Yeqi is an omega or an alpha? Why don't you marry your son over instead?" Yu Yan sighed and said, "Forget it. I just want to take revenge as soon as possible. As for marrying and having children, it's too early to talk about it." Yeshu asked, "But the personal guard beside you? You mean Yun Gui? I have nothing to do with him." Yu Yan suddenly looked like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He was so shocked that he almost jumped up and said, "Don't talk nonsense. It won't be good if other people hear it." Yeshu. Could his guilty expression be any more obvious? However, Yeshu had never been willing to pry into other people's private matters, so he didn't ask any more questions. The two of them walked to the entrance of the temporary imperial residence. Yu Yan's carriage was waiting outside. Just as they were about to get on the carriage, Yu Yan suddenly turned to look in Yeshu's direction and said, "I feel that Jin Wang will treat you very well." Yeshu was startled and asked, "Why do you suddenly say that? How should I put it? You look very different from before." Yu Yan thought for a moment and didn't explain further. He just smiled and said, "But it's definitely not a bad thing." Yeshu understood the meaning behind his words and nodded. "He does treat me very well." The summer night breeze blew gently. Yeshu looked up at the sky and said softly, "And I also love him very much." Yu Yan, keep showing off." Yeshu smiled and said, "Hurry up and go. If there's anything, write to me. Take care." Yu Yan, take care. After watching Yu Yan leave, Yeshu turned around and walked into the temporary imperial residence. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks. Jin Wang was standing under a tree not too far away. He looked at Yeshu from afar with a smile in his eyes. Yeshu walked over as Jin Wang said, "I didn't follow you on purpose this time. You two chatted for too long. I just have to come and take a look." Yeshu blinked. "I guessed as much." Jin Wang added, "Xiao Yechi has already been coaxed to sleep. He didn't cry or make a fuss tonight. He's been very obedient." Yeshu, N. After coaxing the little one, it's time to coax the big one. Jin Wang turned around and bent down slightly. "Get on. I'll carry you back." The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Jin Wang carried Yeshu slowly towards the sleeping quarters. Suddenly, he said, "I admit that I overheard something just now." Yeshu tilted his head and looked at him. The moonlight cast a deep shadow on Jin Wang's side profile. "What did you hear?" "I won't say it. If I say it, it won't mean the same anymore." Jin Wang paused and said softly, "I want to hear it from you directly." Yeshu smiled and buried his head in Jin Wang's shoulder. "Then I can only guess which was it that I said." "Is it? Jin Wang treats me very well. I'm very happy right now. I also love him very much. From the past until now, no matter how my memories change, I will always love him and only him." Yeshu kissed Jin Wang's cheek and said softly, "I really love him very, very much." End chapter. Marked by a tyrant after transmigrating. Chapter 59. In the blink of an eye, it was autumn and the weather was cold. The emperor finally brought his wife and son, no, the prime minister and the little prince back to the capital. The two of them still acted like virtuous monarchs and his loyal minister in front of the officials. They went to court when it was time to go to court and dealt with government affairs when it was time to deal with them. If there was a disagreement, they would argue in front of the officials as usual. However, this time, the arguments seemed more like they were flirting. Of course, there were still differences. For example, in the past, Minister Ye would return home to rest after court or dealing with government affairs. However, now, he didn't return home at night and was in the palace whenever one asked for his whereabouts. Minister Ye had already returned to the capital for half a month, but no one in the Ye residence had seen his son, yet. The servants of the Ye residence shook their heads and sighed. They gradually accepted their fate. After a few months, the post-war matters with West Xia were completely dealt with. However, a blunder came about. The situation was like this. Changlu and West Xia were very far apart. If it wasn't for the urgent situation, it would take at least 1.5 months for a normal merchant group to reach West Xia from the capital. This was the speed at which news spread. Thus, when West Xia's capital fell and its was king deciding to send hostages to Changlu, the news that West Xia have of Changlu was that its emperor was still pursuing his prime minister. Wasn't he just lonely? Wasn't it that simple? The king of West Xia waved his brush and sent his twin son and daughter who had just reached adulthood over. When the news that the Changlu's prime minister had given birth to an imperial prince reached West Xia's capital, the caravan had already left for half a month. It was impossible to stop it then. The king of West Xia went crazy, the siblings on the road went crazy, and Jin Wang, who had received the news in advance, also went crazy. The king of West Xia is definitely trying to sow discord between the harmonious and happy relationship between Zhen and his beloved, Jin Wang said angrily. We can't let them enter the city. Head steward Gao Jin was silent for a moment and then said, But your majesty, West Xia's princess and prince are already waiting outside the city gates. If we order them not to enter the city, isn't it a bit too late? Jin Wang said decisively, we can't let Ashu know about this. We're going to Jiangnan? Or am I supposed to bring Xiao Yeqi there myself? Late at night, Yeshu had just coaxed the baby in his arms to sleep. His voice was very low. Why? Jin Wang's mental fortitude, which had been tempered by his many years of service to the previous emperor, was very strong. He calmly said, You're not going by yourself and will only go first. I'll be right behind you after I'm done with the matters at hand. But Jin Wang interrupted him, the winter in the capital is too cold, and Yair is still so young. It's more suitable for him to spend the winter in the south. Yeshu looked at him suspiciously. Jin Wang also had a temporary residence on the southern coast. When the capital was covered in white snow during winter, the sun would still be high up in the sky there, making it as warm as summer. As an emperor, he knew how to enjoy life. Yeshu was a little shaken. What you said makes sense. Jin Wang didn't give him a chance to go back on his words. He immediately said, I've already given the order. You will set off tomorrow. So soon? Yeshu frowned. But I heard that the West Xia's envoys will be arriving soon. I still have to. Jin Wang said, I'm here. You don't need to worry about these things. Then Yeshu pursed his lips and whispered, Then when are you coming to join us? Jin Wang's heart softened when he saw Yeshu's expression. He lowered his head and kissed Yeshu's forehead. Once I'm done with the matters in the capital, I'll definitely rush over there. It just so happens that the weather isn't too cold right now. You can go to Jiangnan by water and have fun while traveling. When he mentioned having fun, Yeshu's eyes lit up. All right. Bringing Yeshu and the baby south to spend the winter wasn't a last-minute decision. Jin Wang's original plan was for his family of 3 to take a ferry down and have fun along the way. But now, it was all that damned king of the West Xia's fault. Yeshu looked very happy. He had been cooped up in the capital for so long and had long wanted to go out for a trip. Yeshu smacked his lips on Jin Wang's face, but then, he felt something. He frowned and moved back. Control your pheromones. Jin Wang was startled. Only now did he notice that the air was filled with the fragrance of wine. Yeshu's ears were a bit hot. Xiao Yeqi is still here. Why are you flirting? The atmosphere gradually became a bit ambiguous. Jin Wang uncomfortably looked away. I'm going to take a bath. He really didn't do it on purpose. Alphas didn't experience a period rut at the beginning. However, after an alpha marked an omega, out of reproductive instincts, alpha would have a period of rut about once or twice a year. An alpha's rut was normally not a bother. It was just that he wouldn't be able to help but release his pheromones in front of his marked omega in an attempt to seduce the omega into a period of heat. If they often had intercourse, it could be controlled. However, recently, the baby had become more and more clingy. Every night, Yeshu had to coax him to sleep himself. They hadn't had a chance in a long time. Jin Wang washed his face with water and sighed heavily. The next morning, Yeshu left the capital with the imperial prince. In the afternoon, the city gates opened wide to welcome the victorious return of the army. It was also to welcome the West Xia's envoys into the capital. Commander-in-Chief Zhou Yan rode his horse at the very front. Following beside him was Xiao Huan. After a few months, Xiao Huan's eyebrows had matured a bit. His temperament had also settled down a lot. He was riding a black horse and looked like black clouds treading on snow. He looked very valiant. No wonder he was the young general feared by the whole of West Xia. Jin Wang personally went forward to welcome him. However, Xiao Huan's gaze swept behind Jin Wang. He said unhappily, "Where's my Shu Gur? Ah Huan, don't be disrespectful to His Majesty," Zhou Yan shouted. Xiao Huan opened his mouth and muttered, "Yes," before returning to his original position. Jin Wang looked at Zhou Yan in surprise. General Zhou Yan was a few years older than Jin Wang. However, when he first entered a battlefield, he was even younger than Xiao Huan. He became famous after that first battle. When Jin Wang had appointed Xiao Huan as Zhou Yan's deputy, he had indeed intended for Zhou Yan to mentor him. The effect was unexpectedly good. The West Xia's envoys followed closely behind the army and entered the city. Although West Xia was a defeated country, Chang Lu had always paid attention to etiquette and did not make things difficult for them along the way. However, this did not mean that the two hostages could relax. On the contrary, they were almost scared to death. Jin Wang's reputation was not good outside, and it was even worse in West Xia. In the eyes of the West Xia's people, this foreign monarch was no different from a scourge or a ferocious beast. They said that he was cruel and ruthless, loved to kill, loved to eat raw meat and looked like the devil himself. In short, each rumor was scarier than the last. The West Xia's princess and prince had heard countless rumors along the way. When they were helped off the carriage, they were so nervous that they almost fainted. The brother and sister did not dare to raise their heads. They were guided along the way, and when they saw the black robe in front of them, they trembled and knelt down. "Jin Wang. Am I that scary? Rise, all of you." Jin Wang's expression was calm but his heart was filled with anxiety. All he wanted to do was to quickly send them all back so that he could follow his prime minister and son. The siblings were a little too nervous. They supported each other to stand up. When the princess of West Xia stood up, her legs gave way and she fell forward. Jin Wang instinctively helped her up. Ah, 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 ah. Her fear reached its peak the moment Jin Wang touched her. The princess of West Xia screamed and fainted, falling into Jin Wang's arms. The city gate was noisy but Jin Wang keenly heard the sound of the carriage wheels. He looked in the direction of the sound and saw a carriage arriving in front of the city gate tower. The curtain of the carriage was lifted. Yeshu was holding his baby. Two pairs of eyes that looked alike were quietly watching him. And Jin Wang was still holding the princess of West Xia who had fainted. "Jin Wang. I couldn't, I didn't do anything." Yangzin Palace Hall. Yeshu held his baby with one hand and took a sip of tea with the other. He slowly opened his eyes. The emperor of Changlu, who was rumored to be a fiend and a demon in the mortal realm, stood in front of him with his head lowered in guilt. "No wonder your majesty wanted this subject to bring Xiao Yeqi to Jiangnan. So, it was to send this subject away so you could see to the two beauties from West Xia to your heart's content." Yeshu sneered. "Jin Wang, I really didn't." "Then what?" "I just..." Jin Wang opened his mouth but didn't know how to explain. He said, "I was just afraid that you would be angry." "Yeshu, well, I am very angry right now." Jin Wang took a step forward and squatted down. He whispered, "Then what can I do to make you not angry anymore?" Yeshu couldn't stand this person speaking like this. His expression immediately softened and he looked away. "It's useless to act spoiled. I'll tell you, The strong fragrance of wine filled the air. Yeshu's expression froze and his breathing became heavier. This scent was even stronger than the one he smelled earlier. Yeshu's ears quickly turned red. He said angrily, "You can't win in an argument against me, so you're trying seduced me instead." I didn't. Get out. Ashu. Get out. Bang. The doors of Yangzin Palace Hall suddenly slammed shut. A group of eunuchs squeezed in the distant corridor and lowered their heads like quails. No one dared to look in that direction. When Minister Ye got angry, he was as scary as His Majesty. Everyone shrunk their necks and silently decided that they would be more careful when serving Minister Ye in the future. They couldn't be careless. Jin Wang also felt very helpless right now. This was the first time that His Majesty had been locked out of his own chambers. He wasn't angry at all though, but rather regretful. He had originally wanted to avoid unnecessary trouble, but who would have thought that he would end up angering the other man anyways? If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have bothered lying to him. He waited in front of the door for a while. When he saw that there was no movement from inside, he walked around to the window and whispered, "Ashu, I was wrong." There was no response. After a while, Yeshu's muffled voice came from inside the room. "Do you know what you did wrong?" Jin Wang said truthfully, "I only found out yesterday that the king of West Xia had sent these two people to the capital. If I had known earlier, I definitely wouldn't have agreed to let him do this." "Yeshu, it's not about that." "I'm not angry about that." Yeshu's voice came through the window. It was as if his voice was covered by a veil and was somewhat hoarse. "I'm angry that you don't trust me. I know what you're worried about. You're worried that the king of West Xia has other plans. You're worried that the two West Xia royalty who came will drive a wedge between you and me. You're also worried that I will be hurt because of this." Yeshu continued, "Do I really need your protection that much? Jin Wang, I love you, so no matter what happens, I want to face it with you. You shouldn't have driven me away." Jin Wang was silent for a long time. After a while, he softly said, "I'm sorry. This time, I acted on my own initiative. It's my fault." Jin Wang pressed his palm against the window. His voice was soft and sincere. "Let me make it up to you." After a while, the door to the hall was opened. Yeshu walked out with the sleeping Xiao Yechi in his arms. He didn't even look at Jin Wang as he called for the wet nurse to take the baby away. Only then did he turn around to look at Jin Wang, who was standing in front of the hall in a daze. Yeshu walked past him and entered the hall. After crossing the door, he stopped. "Why aren't you coming in?" Jin Wang asked, "Are you not angry anymore?" "I'm still angry." Yeshu didn't even turn his head. "But there won't be a next time." "There won't be a next time." Jin Wang took 2 steps forward and hugged Yeshu from behind. He buried his head in the side of Yeshu's neck and rubbed against him. "I promise, there won't be a next time." Yeshu's ears burned. His limbs felt weak from the lingering scent of Jin Wang's pheromones. He leaned against Jin Wang and whispered, "I've already sent the baby away. I've also sent away all the servants outside. No one will come near here for the rest of the day." Jin Wang was stunned for a moment. He raised his eyes to look at the person in his arms. Yeshu's little cinnabar mole behind his ear had unknowingly turned dark red. "You." Yeshu's face also gradually turned red. He said angrily, "Why aren't you going to go in? How much longer do you want to endure?" As soon as he finished speaking, he was immediately picked up horizontally by someone. Jin Wang carried Yeshu and strode to the side of the bed. He placed him on the bed and then leaned over. "So, you didn't speak or ignore me just now because you were coaxing Xiao Yechi to sleep?" Yeshu pursed his lips. He tilted his head and didn't speak. Jin Wang couldn't help but kiss him. How could this person be so cute? He was clearly throwing a tantrum, but he still coaxed his son to sleep so he could soothe Jin Wang's rut. "I really love you." Jin Wang raised his head and said seriously, "You don't even know how much I love you." Yeshu's consciousness became hazy as the scent of the pheromones grew stronger. He tried his best to raise his head and kiss Jin Wang's lips. He smiled. I know. I've known a long time ago. The next day, Chang Lu sent the West Xia's envoys and hostages back. In addition to ceding land and paying tribute every year, they added another condition. West Xia had to spread the love story of the Changlu Emperor and his Prime Minister throughout the country. A few days later, the Emperor and the Prime Minister took the little prince to the south by boat. The family of three went on a sightseeing tour along the way, traveling incognito, enjoying the rivers, the view, and peaceful seasons. In the spring of the second year, the little cub grew very quickly. In the blink of an eye, he could already walk slowly with the help of others. That afternoon, Yeshu had just coaxed his cub to sleep when a little yellow dog slipped into Yangzin Palace Hall. Yeshu was slightly surprised as he asked, "Is the mission completed?" The system couldn't interfere with the plot too often. The last time they met, they had agreed that the little yellow dog wouldn't appear in front of Yeshu again unless the mission was completed. He didn't expect to meet it again so soon. Yes, Jin Wang's day of unifying the world is just around the corner. The system shows that your mission is completed, the little yellow dog said. A year ago, I told you that you could choose the reward you wanted after the mission was completed. Have you thought about what you wanted? Yeshu looked back at the little cub who was sleeping peacefully on the bed. A gentle breeze blew in through the half-open window. Yeshu looked up and saw layers of overhanging eaves reflecting the sunlight in the distance. The large imperial palace was bathed in the afternoon sun, and it was unusually quiet. I've thought about it, Yeshu said softly. I want to stay here. The little yellow dog wasn't too surprised. It had accompanied Yeshu for so long, so it understood his personality and ways of thinking. The little yellow dog said, "You can stay, but you might not be able to return to the real world again. I have nothing there, so why should I go back?" Yeshu said. "Wealth, power, health, you can give me many things, but those are not what I want the most. I want a home, and now, home is here." "That's fine." The little yellow dog wagged its tail. "I will pass on your wishes to the higher-ups, but your memories, the system has never done this before, so I'm not sure if I can retrieve them. Apart from that, there might be other benefits. I'll do my best." Yeshu nodded. "Thank you." A faint light flashed across the little yellow dog's body. After the light dissipated, the little yellow dog blinked and looked around blankly, finally landing on Yeshu. "Woof woof." The little yellow dog rushed forward and wagged its tail, wanting to pounce on Yeshu. Yeshu hurriedly caught it. "You are Awang. Awang, woof woof woof. Shh, all right." Yeshu rubbed Awang's head and whispered, "I know you're back, so I'm happy. Don't disturb Xiao Yechi." Woof. Little Awang lay in Yeshu's arms and looked suspiciously at the cub on the bed. It didn't seem to understand when this little thing had appeared by its master's side. Yeshu carried Awang out of the bedroom, only to see Jin Wang standing under the peach tree in front of the courtyard. Light pink petals fluttered around him. Yeshu walked up to him. "Why aren't you coming in?" Jin Wang looked a little hesitant. The system has already left." "This is Awang," Yeshu said. "I just told the system that I won't be leaving." Jin Wang's eyes flickered. Yeshu put down the little dog in his arms and wrapped his arms around Jin Wang's neck. "Say something, I've already stayed for you." "I don't know what to say." Jin Wang smiled bitterly. "I really want to say that you don't have to make such a sacrifice for me, but if this is the only way to prevent us from being separated. I'm very happy that you've made this decision. You always say that I've sacrificed for you, but that's nothing compared to the sacrifices that you've made. I'm willing." Yeshu blinked and interrupted him. "As long as you're willing, then it's not a sacrifice. Isn't that what you said?" Jin Wang smiled. "I understand. Then let's talk about something else. Jin Wang looked at the face in front of him and asked, our child is already so big. Shouldn't Minister Ye also give me a status? Previously, since Xiao Yeqi was still young and they were busy with state affairs, the two could only put the wedding date on hold. Now that everything was settled, he brought up this old matter again. The two looked at each other for a long time. Yeshu smiled. I couldn't ask for more. The wedding date was set for 3 months later. The two would be married in accordance to the rites of the emperor and empress. It just so happened to be the little prince's first birthday, as well. Yeshu wouldn't enter the harem after the wedding and instead would keep his prime minister position. Henceforth, the two would rule the world together and enjoy the prosperity of their world. End chapter. Marked by a tyrant after transmigrating. Chapter 60. For Yeshu, life after marriage was no different from before. After subduing West Xia, Changlu had a long period of peace. According to the plot of the original novel, it was Great Yan's turn to be dealt with. Great Yan was located in the south and whose military might was much stronger than West Xia. Naturally, it was not something that could be solved by sending troops over. Now that Yu Yan was here, Jin Wang did not have any intention of declaring war. He just let Yu Yan go and seize power, while Chang Lu secretly assisted him. When the time came, wouldn't it be up to them to discuss how the two countries should interact? With the world at peace, Yeshu and Jin Wang could finally focus on raising their child. After Xiao Yeqi turned 1 year old, his appearance gradually matured. His brows also seemed to be carved from the same mold as Jin Wang's. Only his eyes were slightly tilted and bright. When he smiled, he was no different from Yeshu's. It could already be seen that he would grow up to be a beauty that could bring disaster to a country. Xiao Yeqi was very healthy and he was naturally very active. He was even more lively than other children his age. After learning how to walk, he liked to run around the courtyard. When he became wild, no one could catch him. Moreover, this child did not cry or make a fuss when he fell. He would simply pat his clothes and continued to run around as if he had endless energy. Every time though, Yeshu would be scared half to death. He would only be able to relax after he had the servants change all the furniture that could be easily knocked over. Who do you think he takes after in his personality? Yeshu looked through the window at his son who was fighting a battle of wits and courage with the servants in the courtyard. Jin Wang stopped flipping the pages of the book and said without raising his head, "Don't look at me. When I was young, I was not good at running around. Mother forced me to practice martial arts instead." His words were not wrong. When Jin Wang was young, he was feeble and weak. He was also quiet and sensible by nature, so he wouldn't run around like this. Yeshu nodded subconsciously, but he immediately felt that something was wrong. "You're saying that it's all my fault. I was not like this when I was young." That was because he did not have the opportunity. When he was young, he did not have the opportunity to learn how to walk. However, Jin Wang glanced at him. His lips curved as he said softly, "When I first met you, you were just how Xiao Yeqi is like now." Yeshu. At that time, Yeshu's legs had just recovered from its disability and he loved to drag Jin Wang around the palace to play. He jumped up and down and was full of curiosity about everything. It wasn't until Jin Wang's mother was demoted and the three of them moved into the cold palace that Yeshu gradually calmed down. Yeshu was silent for a moment. He refused to admit his dark history. "You're talking nonsense. I'm going to play with my son. I'm ignoring you. Little prince, be careful." Yeshu had just walked out of the hall when a small figure ran towards him and jumped into his arms. "Daddy, Daddy." Xiao Yeqi was very smart. Whether it was learning to walk or talking, he was much faster than ordinary children. He was already 2.5 years old. His pronunciation was clear and his voice had only a little childish lisp to it. Yeshu squatted down and pinched his soft cheeks. Why are you in such a hurry? What's wrong? The little boy grabbed onto Yeshu's sleeve. His eyes were shining. Xiao Yechi wants to go out of the palace to play. Out of the palace? Yeshu asked. Why do you suddenly want to go out? Uncle Gao said that there's a new opera troupe in the city. Yeshu's eyes lit up slightly. They really hadn't gone out of the palace to play for a long time. The power struggle in Great Yan was getting more and more intense. It was inevitable that Changlu would add fuel to the fire. Therefore, since autumn, Jin Wang and Yeshu had gradually become busy. It was fine if they didn't mention it. Now that they did, Yeshu also wanted to go out for a stroll. He turned his head and looked into the hall. Jin Wang was still sitting at the table dealing with work. Before Yeshu came out, he took a look. It would take at least 2 to 4 hours for him to finish. Jin Wang had become more diligent after marriage. If he didn't finish his work, he definitely wouldn't agree to go out to play. But if he waited for another 2 to 4 hours, the sky would get dark. Yeshu pursed his lips and looked back. He just happened to meet Xiao Yeche's bright eyes. The father and son saw the same desire and hesitation in each other's eyes. They didn't dare to mention it. They were scared. Yeshu was helpless. His son was lively and outgoing. He was also cute. Whether it was the eunuchs or the courtiers, everyone would praise him when they saw him. But only, when he was facing his imperial father would he get scared into a ball. Xiao Yechi timidly pulled Yeshu's sleeve. Father, you should go and ask imperial father. He didn't know who he took after this timid manner. No, I was the one who asked when we went to the lake in the suburbs. Yeshu said confidently. We agreed that we would take turn in asking. You can't go back on your word. Xiao Yeche's small face wrinkled. Yeshu said earnestly, your imperial father told you before that you have to fight for what you want. Good boy, your imperial father treats you so well. What's there to be scared of? Xiao Yechi imitated his tone and said seriously, but imperial father also treats you very well, but aren't you scared too? Yeshu opened his mouth. After a while, he whispered, it's different for me. Xiao Yechi curiously tilted his head. How is it different? Yeshu's expression became a bit complicated. Last time, he took them to the lake. They had so much fun that they refused to go back to the palace. Because of this, Jin Wang had accumulated more than 30 memorials. In the end, he was forced to sit on the dragon chair in the imperial study by the dog emperor's side. He had to sit there and read through the memorials. It took him an entire night to finish them. Yeshu shivered. He didn't explain and said with a serious face, well, we're supposed to take turns. We've already agreed. Okay. Xiao Yechi said sensibly. Then I'll go and find imperial father. Why are you looking for me? Jin Wang's voice suddenly sounded behind the two of them. The big and small duo outside the hall trembled and turned their heads around. Yeshu wasn't much taller than his son when he squatted down. They looked up at Jin Wang with the same innocent expression in his eyes. What kind of evil idea are you discussing now? Their appearance was so cute that it made people's hearts melt. Jin Wang's eyes moved slightly and he deliberately asked with a serious face. Yeshu secretly poked his son next to him. Xiao Yechi looked at Yeshu. Seeing his father's encouraging gaze, he boldly walked forward and took Jin Wang's hand. He said in a soft and cute voice, Imperial father, Ye-er wants to go out and play. Jin Wang asked, where do you want to go? The Imperial Garden. No. Jin Wang wasn't strict with his son. On the contrary, because his son's temperament was too similar to Yeshu's, he was somewhat indulgent with him. Perhaps it was because he had been the ruler for so many years that his majesty seemed like he couldn't be shaken off. This made the child instinctively afraid. Xiao Yechi blinked his bright eyes and gathered his courage. I want to go out and play. Jin Wang saw the expression on the two people's faces and expected it, so he wasn't surprised. He glanced at Yeshu, who was obediently squatting behind his son and pretending that this matter had nothing to do with him. He leisurely said, "If you want to go out, then let your father take you. The Prime Minister's residence outside the palace is also your home." After the marriage, Jin Wang gave Yeshu a new Prime Minister's residence. It was closer to the imperial palace and Yeshu could go back and live there whenever he wanted. However, more than a year had passed and Yeshu rarely went back there. Xiao Yeqi suddenly understood, oh right. If he and his father wanted to go out and play, they didn't need to ask for his imperial father's permission. But why? Xiao Yeqi looked at Yeshu in confusion. Yeshu couldn't avoid it, so he took a few steps forward and grabbed Jin Wang's other hand. He whispered, "I want you to go out and play with us." Jin Wang's gaze swept over the two of them. Finally, he couldn't hold it in any longer and gently smiled. In the past, there was only Yeshu. He already couldn't stand this person acting spoiled and cute. Now, there was another little one. His Majesty once again began to worry about his status in this family. Jin Wang said, "Go change your clothes. We're going out of the palace." Yay! Xiao Yeqi was happy and was carried away by a palace maid to change his clothes. Jin Wang led Yeshu into the palace hall. Yeshu took the initiative to unbutton his dragon robe. His ears were a little hot as he said, "It's Xiao Yeqi who wants you to go with him, not me." "I know." Jin Wang looked down at him with a faint smile in his eyes, "It's not you who is clingy." Yeshu awkwardly looked away and his ears turned even redder. Jin Wang loved this look of his. He stepped forward to help him take off his robe, too, and kissed him on the cheek. Even Xiao Yeqi knows how to bravely express what he wants. Why is Minister Ye hiding behind his son? Wasn't it because a certain emperor was always being unreasonable? Jin Wang smiled but didn't say anything. The two of them quickly changed into civilian clothes and left the palace with Xiao Yeqi. The family of three went to the theater to watch a new play. Then, they went to the best restaurant in the city for dinner. As soon as they entered the restaurant, a figure came out of the restaurant to greet them, "Master, Your Majesty." Jin Wang looked up at him. The person immediately changed his address. "Young master." Yeshu didn't mind. The child in his arms excitedly shouted, "Uncle Chang Yuan." Chang Yuan patted Xiao Yeqi's head, "Good evening, little young master." Chang Yuan wasn't good at business but he was cautious and serious in his work and had Yeshu's help behind him. Ever since he took over Yeshu's business, it took him less than 3 years to become the largest merchant in the capital. Jin Wang turned a blind eye to this and never asked where the money went. All of it went to Yeshu's little treasury. The restaurant they went to was also one of the Ye family's businesses. Chang Yuan led the three of them to the best table in the restaurant. Xiao Yeqi clung to Chang Yuan and refused to let go. "I want to fly high, I want to go to the roof." Yeshu. Once, Xiao Yeqi was carried by Chang Yuan using Qinggong. From then on, he clung to Chang Yuan. Every time they met, he would carry him and fly. Chang Yuan got the permission of his two fathers, picked up Xiao Yeqi, and jumped out of the window. Yeshu naturally didn't have to worry about Chang Yuan's skills. As he watched him jump over the roof, Yeshu looked away and saw that Jin Wang's expression wasn't very good. Yeshu teased, "Are you jealous? You can obviously fly with your son, but our emperor can't put down his pride." He cleared his throat and imitated Jin Wang's tone, "Flying over roofs and vaulting over walls, how preposterous." Jin Wang glanced at him. Yeshu quickly shut his mouth. Jin Wang lifted the teacup in front of him and took a sip. "I'm just worried that Yair will really fall in love with martial arts and change his mind." Jin Wang's older brother was like this. He liked martial arts from a young age and didn't have the heart to do his homework. When he grew up, he didn't have the heart to inherit the throne and went straight to his fief. However, it was due to this that the eldest prince managed to escape a calamity. He could be considered Jin Wang's only relative in this world. Yeshu didn't care, there's nothing bad about it. If he really likes martial arts, we can get Xiao Huan to teach him. In any case, Xiao Huan also likes him. Every time he writes to him, he sends him a lot of delicious food. At this point, Yeshu's voice stopped abruptly as he shut his mouth. Jin Wang's eyes narrowed slightly. Xiao Huan still writes to you. Yeshu felt guilty from his glare and said, "What are you doing? How long has it been since he left the capital? If you have the time to be jealous, why don't you hurry your trusted aide, General Zhou, to pursue him?" Jin Wang was speechless. The two of them had been together day and night, and their relationship had developed quite a bit. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell. But the problem was that one of them had grown up in a military camp and only knew martial arts. He was a complete blockhead, while the other still only had Yeshu in his head. Every year, he would write a letter to Jin Wang. The imperial couple would hope that it was a request for the two of them to get married. Jin Wang. It would be strange if his general could get this omega. Jin Wang didn't want to talk about this with him anymore, so he asked, "If you allow Yair to practice martial arts, what will happen to the throne? You won't let him be the crown prince anymore." Yeshu fell silent. "Well." Yeshu frowned and said, "If he doesn't become the crown prince, he won't be able to inherit the throne. You can't retire earlier and go out to play with me. Sigh, it's better to nurture him well and let him quickly inherit the throne for the sake of his two fathers' happiness." Jin Wang. Why was this person sound so disdainful of the throne? Jin Wang was already used to his prime minister's unusual way of thinking. He smiled lightly and said, "Actually, there's another way." "Yeshu, what is it?" Jin Wang leaned closer and whispered in Yeshu's ear, "If he doesn't want to be the crown prince, we can just have another child." Yeshu's ears quickly turned red. If it was said that Yeshu had been a little averse to getting pregnant and having children before he gave birth, he didn't feel that way now. Children were so fun to play with, so there was no harm in having one more. However, they had always let nature take its course in this aspect. They didn't deliberately prevent it, nor did they force it. This was the first time Jin Wang had taken the initiative to bring it up. How do you know that if you have another child, he will definitely want your throne? What if he doesn't want it either?" Jin Wang sighed and said, "Then we can only adopt from the side branch. I don't know if my brother has any children." Yeshu was stunned when he heard this. Jin Wang, what? If our child doesn't want the throne, you really don't care?" Yeshu asked. "What's there to care about?" Jin Wang said, "You said it yourself. The child has his own life. What he wants to do shouldn't be restricted by us." Yeshu's gaze softened. Jin Wang had really changed a lot for him. Chang Yuan quickly returned with Xiao Yeqi. When the dishes were all served, Yeshu was feeding Xiao Yeqi egg custard when he suddenly thought of something. "Jin Wang," Yeshu put down his spoon. Xiao Yeqi opened his mouth but didn't get to eat the egg custard. He smacked his lips in puzzlement. "Jin Wang, Yeshu was expressionless. "So, when you refuse to take Xiao Yeqi flying about with Qing Gong, it's not because of pride, right?" Jin Wang. When the two returned to the palace, it was already late at night. Yeshu placed the sleeping Xiao Yeqi on the bed. Just as he got up, he was hugged from behind. "Let's go take a bath." The dog emperor never let go of any opportunity to be intimate. Xiao Yeqi was at the age when he was very clingy. He slept with his two fathers every day, so the bath was the only place where they could be alone. Yeshu nodded imperceptibly. Jin Wang kissed him on the cheek and pulled him out. A little yellow dog came in through the gap in the door. After the little yellow dog Awang was left by the system, it was kept in the Yangzin Palace Hall. At this time, it was usually already asleep. The two looked at each other. Sure enough, the little yellow dog wagged its tail and said in human language, "Long time no see." Yeshu asked, "What are you doing here, Big Yellow?" The little yellow dog's fur exploded. "I'll say it again. My name is not Big Yellow. Although I'm a dog now, I'm not a real dog. Jin Wang." Yeshu. Yeshu bent down to stroke the little yellow dog's fur. "I won't tease you anymore. Why are you looking for me?" The little yellow dog had a look of disgust on its face, but it didn't avoid it. Instead, it instinctively rubbed against his palm. "It's nothing. It's about what I promised you before." Yeshu paused. "You mean, my memories?" "Yes." The little yellow dog said, "The memories that were erased from your mind had been recovered. When you wake up tomorrow, they will return to you." Yeshu's eyes moved slightly. He looked up at Jin Wang. The latter smiled gently at him. Yeshu said, "Thank you." Yeshu didn't care if his memories could be recovered. He was very happy now, even without those memories. However, those were the bits and pieces of memories of him and Jin Wang. If they could be recovered, it would be for the best. "There's another piece of news." The little yellow dog said, "I've made a request to the system to allow you to enter the modern world. When you enter the modern world, the flow of time here will stop. However, if you want to stay there for a longer period, you need to apply in advance. I'll leave a document for you regarding the application method and the rules that need to be followed." He looked up at Jin Wang. "This world has been rebooted many times. It was against the rules. Fortunately, it has been resolved successfully. Consider this my thanks to you." Jin Wang understood and nodded. "Thank you." The little yellow dog turned around and was about to leave when he thought of something. He said to Yeshu, "Oh right, you can't go to the modern world yet. You have to wait for a while." Yeshu asked, "Why?" The little yellow dog explained, "The system gave permission for only the two of you. The children that you created won't be able to go." This was already the system being lenient. Yeshu wasn't so greedy as to ask their children to go with them. Yeshu said, "I understand. It's fine as long as we don't bring Xiao Yechi along." The little yellow dog looked at them hesitantly. "Jin Wang." "Yeshu." Jin Wang took a deep breath and said, "I understand. Thank you for the reminder." The little yellow dog nodded and turned to leave. Jin Wang helped Yeshu sit down. Yeshu asked blankly, What's wrong?" "It's nothing. Don't be nervous." Jin Wang comforted him gently and called out, "Summon the imperial physician." Yeshu. The end.